Okay, I think I got the go signal. So go ahead and get started. Well, hello everyone. This is Assemblymember Freddie Rodriguez. I'm here to share with you an exciting and significant legislative update from my office. I've introduced Assembly Bill 1312, legislation that will help the state meet its goals of reducing greenhouse gases across our state, especially here in the Inland Empire. Although the state has spent billions in investing in renewable energy across California and in the past decade, the Inland Empire is still known to be one of the most polluted areas in the country. Just recently, we saw the governor issue an executive order that requires all new passenger vehicles to be zero emission by 2035, which included a 1.5 billion investment to more quickly meet those goals. AB 1312 will help achieve these goals by providing a 10-year steady declining tax credit for investments made in developing hydrogen fueling stations for passenger, heavy duty, and transit vehicles. Additionally, it sets a goal to install 1,000 hydrogen stations by 2030, which will provide hydrogen refueling coverage to 97% of disadvantaged communities, including those right here in the Inland Empire. These investments will build upon the work we have seen here in the Inland Empire and in the 52nd Assembly District. Recently, the City of Ontario received a 1.5 million grant for their True Zero Hydrogen Station and is currently developing another station intended for trucks. However, to keep this development in the Inland Empire, investments must be directed right here in the IE. Today, I'm excited to make this announcement, being joined by John Corson with Worthington Industries, a Pomona-based manufacturer for specialized cylinders needed for hydrogen development, and with Brian Goldstein with Energy Independence Now, a nonprofit dedicated to advancing hydrogen technology. John, we have you go first. If you could please introduce yourself and say a few words.
Thanks, Mr. Rodriguez. My name's John Corson, and I'm the product group manager for Worthington Industries factory in Pomona, California. We employ 180 persons and manufacture composite reinforced pressure vessels for storing high pressure gases. My group makes the vessels for storing hydrogen on fuel cell vehicles, such as for the Honda Clarity and buses, the tube trailers which deliver hydrogen to the filling stations, and for storing hydrogen at the filling stations. We very much believe in Assembly Bill 1312, and it makes great sense both for the environment and the economy. It's a great method to encourage and prompt private investment in hydrogen fuel stations and infrastructure. As an example, we recently developed storage vessels which no longer require pre-chilling of the hydrogen during the filling and dispensing process. And this technology is already available today and can immediately reduce the cost of hydrogen stations by $300,000 to $400,000 and reduce hydrogen dispensing costs by about 15%. But even more importantly, with more development, there is the opportunity to save another 15 to 20% in cost reduction on the stations if there's enough station building to justify the development and certification of even larger vessels which process hydrogen even more efficiently. And so we're a great fan and a believer in this legislation. I'd like to thank you so much for allowing us to participate, and even more so for your great leadership on clean energy policy, Mr. Rodriguez. Persons can always feel welcome to give me a call anytime if you have questions about hydrogen storage or processing. Thanks so much.
Thank you, John, and thanks again for your support and helping with the bill and for all the good work you do right here in the district. Next, I'll turn it over to Brian. Brian would like to say a few words.
Thank you, Assemblymember Rodriguez. Excuse me. My name is Brian Goldstein. I'm Executive Director of Energy Independence Now, which over the last 20 years has been the only environmental nonprofit that just focuses on the hydrogen ecosystem. So we have three primary programs: education and outreach program, where we really try to spread the word about this exciting technology and applications, and try to gain acceptance among our peers and the policy community, the nonprofit community, and generally speaking around the state. So we also conduct a lot of analysis, and we have been engaging the policy community through our advocacy program, for the last 20 years. So we through that effort, created the California Hydrogen Highway Initiative for then Governor Schwarzenegger back about 15, 16 years ago. We have co-written legislation that requires renewable content and hydrogen sold for transportation in California. And we're now focused on making sure that all hydrogen fuel in California is 100% renewable. So that's the goal on the horizon here. But renewable hydrogen and the technology that supports it is particularly important in four main areas here in California. Transportation being kind of front and center and the one that seems to get the most attention these days. But energy storage, especially in the context of curtailed renewables here in California. So every year we produce way more solar and wind than we're able to use in real time. And we really need a mechanism in order to store that and be able to return it to the grid in times of need. And frankly, you know, what we saw happen in Texas last week is a great reminder of the need for flexibility with our renewable energy production, the need to frankly just be able to store it and then use it when we really need it the most. Other applications are deep industrial decarbonization, simply replacing either fossil hydrogen or fossil-based gases that we're using for heating in industrial sectors like refineries, steel production, concrete production, and ammonia production. And then finally, I think one that would particularly interest Assemblymember Rodriguez is disaster resilience. You know, the ability to use a fuel cell electric vehicle as a stationary generator that can fuel the average home in California for up to a week. It's sitting right there in your garage and doesn't produce any emissions, so you don't have to worry about running it inside, whether it's in your garage or in an evacuation center, say at the Staples Center, right? So that's an exciting application and one that's particularly pertinent right now, given the fallout from the fires in California last year and every year it seems like now, and now with the winter storm fresh on our minds from Texas. So I want to reiterate our support for AB 1312. This sends a vital signal to industry that California is open for business. It continues California's leadership position, saying, hey, we really want to be forward leaning on this movement. We really want to attract the type of business that will help us achieve our energy, climate, and environmental goals moving forward. And I think this specific bill is really going to help attract business to California and really help us continue to show that leadership. So thanks for the opportunity to speak with you, and thank you very much for your leadership on AB 1312.
Oh, Brian, thanks. Thanks for the support. It's much appreciated, and it's exciting to hear what's in store for hydrogen industry in the future. I think there's a lot that can come from this, so looking forward to it. And with that, many thanks for everyone who turned in for this announcement today. I'm looking forward to seeing that the bill reaches the governor's desk and secure critical funding needed to build upon our hydrogen efforts here in the Inland Empire. So with that, I want to thank everybody for participating. And I think there's time for a question or two. I don't know if there's anybody out there that would have a question for any of us while we have a few minutes. I'll just check here what's down.
We'll wait for anybody who raises their hand to ask a question, Assembly Member.
Okay.
Doesn't look like anybody right now.
Okay, so just give another 30 seconds if that, John, and if not, we'll be good. Oh, I think there's some right here. There's a question here.
Tia, if you'd like to ask a question, go ahead.
Okay.
I think Tia's still muted.
Okay, I'm here. Okay. Hi, I was just wondering if we can add to the conversation later on at some point, what can we do to keep the nozzle rings from freezing up on the vehicles after we fuel them? I would like to know if there's something in plan for that motion in the future, but that's just something to put on your mind. Thank you.
Hey, Tia, may I answer that, please?
Sure. Go ahead, John.
Sure.
Tia, it's wonderful that we get some practical questions, and it sounds like you're a fuel cell user, so good on you. There is something that's going on. The cylinders that we're developing that don't require the chilling, right now hydrogen has to be pre-chilled down to -40 Fahrenheit when you're filling your vehicle in order to protect the storage containers from overheating. With the technology that we're developing here in Pomona, they will have a higher temperature rating, and so this chilling won't be needed. That's really a cool question. That's spot on with what one of the major developments in the industry is right now. So thanks for your question, Tia.
Spot
Seems
on.
like that was a softball. If we have a minute, I'd love to speak to that as well. I wanted to mention that California really launched essentially the first hydrogen stations in the world, certainly the first hydrogen stations that were public access and that you could just walk right up to and swipe a credit card and fuel your car. So, because of that, there were only, a handful of manufacturers in the world making the components. And for the early designs of the dispensers, we only really had one choice of nozzles to use. But now that the hydrogen movement's gained so much momentum, there are more and more companies participating in this space. And I'm really happy to say that California has already begun to transition kind of the early generation nozzles from the current hydrogen stations to a newer nozzle made by Tetsuno, which has opened up a shop here in California as well. It's a Japanese-based company, but their nozzle technology already kind of eliminates the freeze-up issue. I just saw one a couple of days ago that had just been swapped out at the station I was using. I didn't even realize it was in the plans. But I think with a little patience, you'll see that we'll end up moving all of our stations over to these newer generation nozzles, and that problem should be an issue of the past.
All right, well, good to know. And I think with that, Sean, I don't see nobody else, so I think we're good.
Yes.
All right, once again, thanks, John and Brian, for all you guys do, and thanks for everybody for tuning in. And stay tuned. Let's get this bill to the governor, get it signed, and put it in place.
Do it.
Thank you all for supporting. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, folks.